So legal design is, I would say that it is a mindset, it is a discipline where you look at everything you do, for whether it's a service or it's a product or it's your information, namely your contract, the social media content, and you kind of take a step back and think, okay, how can I make everything that I do more user-centric?
I'm very interested to know what you exactly do as a legal design manager at ContractPodAi. And perhaps you can tell us what your day looks like.
On the internal side, because they have a legal product, they have a software that they sell to in-house lawyers, I'm bringing the end user's perspective to the table, right? So I'm helping with the development of new modules. I'm helping the sales team better understand the general counsel, the in-house lawyer personas. So I kind of share my insights as a end user to empower the teams internally to have a more user-centric approach.
Do you have some resources that really helped you out when you first started engaging with legal design? I just want to know how you can sort of convince more and more people to invest time and actually get people to, really practice this discipline. Like, how do you convince companies or law firms or, just the entire legal industry to sort of pick this up more?
People in the legal industry in general to really embrace it, and not only legal design, it's any new skills, any skills that can really enhance the practice of law, is because it's not enough to be a good technical legal professional.
I also wanted to ask you, you're obviously using legal design to make the product better. But for like a law student or a lawyer, let's say, how can they use legal design in their day-to-day lives? Like, what do you think can be the impact of legal design?
Be bold, go for it. Don't be scared of making mistakes. It's just normal. You're just learning. And be prepared to adjust as well as you grow. There will be some services or that won't be profitable and that you might have to just park away. There might be other things that you might want to double down on because clearly it's working. Work smart as well.
Sarah, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with Prologue today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Shreya.
All right, so for everybody who's watching this, Sarah has been an in-house lawyer for over 7 years. Then she started her own gig. It's called LawButHow, and has been engaging with the legal design space for a very, very long time now, and is currently the legal design manager at ContractPodAi, which is sorry, can you just help us with what ContractPodAi does?
Yeah, sure. So ContractPodAi, so they have a end-to-end contract lifecycle management solution. So they basically have a software that does everything from the generation of the contract all the way to the collaboration, so the negotiation process, all the way to signature, all the way to extracting, the obligations and post-execution once the contract is signed, and then obviously the management of those obligations, including expiry dates and all of that. So they're very so they have a really well advanced product.
Wow. So we'll jump right into the question, Sarah. Like, as I mentioned, you've actually done your law from France, right? And I'm just trying to get a better sense of what that was like, and how is the education system in France different from the rest of the world?
Yeah, so it's a civil law system. So maybe that's where really maybe we should start, because obviously, depending on where you are, depending on where you qualify, you will obviously have either a common law system or a civil law system, or sometimes a bit of both. And so France has, so I qualified there. So you have to spend 5 years at university, and everything is codified. So which is quite a change compared to common law jurisdictions. And I think obviously, yes, I qualified there, but then I couldn't find a job in France, and that's the reason why I went to the UK. And it's kind of like, I had to kind of embrace a different system in a different jurisdiction, and kind of understand, how everything works. And what's interesting is that so you usually have the same end results,
Mm-hmm.
but because it's a different legal system, the means to achieve the end goal would be different. So this is really what I found interesting when I first started to work in the UK. But yeah, and I would describe the legal education in France as quite affordable.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's university is really affordable for anyone who wants to qualify, and which is also perhaps how I've managed to qualify, because I don't really come from a wealthy, comfortable background, which wasn't really a problem when it came to going to law school.
Great. Oh, so is it like publicly funded, the law schools here? Okay, I
Yes,
see.
that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Great.
And that's really what makes it affordable.
Great. So then you started working in UK, and you've worked across financial institutions, tech companies, pharmaceutical institutions, as their in-house team. So was it like a conscious decision to pick an in-house role as compared to the usual, like people either go to law firms or they start practicing? So how did that decision get made?
So I think I knew early on in my career that I wanted to work in-house. I mean, whether it was the right decision, I think it was, but at the time, obviously, I wouldn't have known any different. But I think what really triggered, me pursuing an in-house route was the fact that I think the big thing was my personality. I kind of felt that my personality and wouldn't necessarily be a fit for the law firm culture,
Mm-hmm.
which is, sad in a way. But yeah, I was like, no, I don't belong to the law firm environments. From what I had, like the perception I had about law firms at the time was like, no, you will never fit there. So that's number one. And number two, I think when I started to do my internships, etc., I really got interested in business. And I wasn't necessarily like fond of, the theory behind the law and, the legal parts of the practice. I think I was more interested in the intersection between business and legal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I think I also, wanted to pursue an apprenticeship in-house, and working as part of a legal department. And I really liked it. And I thought, let's just pursue your career in-house, because that's interesting. You're learning, and it's I guess 20% of the time about legal, but 80% about business. And I think that's really what I like about the in-house legal profession.
Great. And you did this for 7 years. So what were your biggest learnings of being an in-house counsel? Like, what do you think you should have known when you started out?
Oh, wow. I should have done a lot of things. I think some of the biggest learnings, I would say, is number one, again, a bit, I had the intuition, but I think it kind of got confirmed when I started to work, is it's rarely about legal, and it is mostly about business, so you really have to almost, take away your legal hat on for a while, and kind of, you're not here to, you're here to tell the law, but you're more here to position the organization in such a way that the law empowers them to achieve their objectives. So that's one of the biggest learning curves that I had when working in-house. People don't really care about, the means. They care about the results. Okay, there is this piece of legislation, but how can I provide my service?
Right.
What's the way forward? So it's very like results driven, and business. When I say results, it's business as opposed to compliance as such. So you're here to serve the business interest of the business. So that's probably the number one thing I took away from my in-house counsel experience. Number two is that things don't have to be perfect to work. because I think, we kind of get
Very
educated
obsessed.
to achieve perfection, and what we mean by perfection is often the perfection of the legal reasoning, and put your client in a position that is the least risky. And when you work in-house, it's nothing like that. When you do business, you take risks every day. That's part of the game, and you're here to enable the company doing business. So it doesn't mean putting the company in such a position that they don't take risks anymore. It's to advise them on what's the way forward, to empower them to manage their risks according to their risk appetite. So it's a very different perspective, compared to what you learn in law school. So yeah, I think that would probably be my number 2 learning curve. So things don't have to be perfect. Things have to work, right? Number 3, get into the action and iteration mindset quickly. Because things don't have to be perfect, you can be experimental. You can try different things. You can try different processes. See what resonates, see what works well with your internal clients, and adjust on the things that aren't necessarily working. So if you have a template and you notice that the contract takes forever to be negotiated because you have a lot of pushback on certain clauses, well, maybe it's time to revisit the template and have something that is a bit more agreeable in order for the business again to sign faster, even though that wouldn't be your legally preferred position. So yes, so be prepared to act and iterate, be open-minded. It's because everything you do has to be business orientated. It means that you have to be more than a lawyer. You have to be a business partner. You have to understand your end users, your salespeople, your marketing team, your HR team, and support them in such a way that is, all about them. So being user-centric. Yeah, I mean, I guess there would be so much more, but I guess I will stop there for now. But yeah, these are the key takeaways. Maybe something else, communicate. It's really, really important to communicate on the value you bring. Have some data, even if everything you do is manual, try to get some data and try to showcase the value of the legal department, because otherwise what I found out really early is that the legal team was often the department of no, and but there are ways you can really address the perception issues, and one of them is to communicate and have some tangible data that you want to share with the wider business. So yeah, nobody is going to communicate things for you. Nobody is going to give you shout out. You have to really be proactive and demonstrate your value as well.
Great. And so that sounds like a lot of fun learnings that you've had. And then in 2021, which is like this year, early this year, you started LawButHow and moved completely away from your in-house role. So how did that change happen, and how did LawButHow start as an idea?
So I think I probably had an intuition. I mean, it's a really tough one in the sense that initially I started to create content on social media, right? Because I was kind of like frustrated with the perception issues of the in-house legal profession. Like we add so much value to the business on a daily basis, and having those perception issues as being the department of no, or being labeled as a cost center, I really wanted to showcase that no, in-house lawyers are valuable. They are creative. They can do great things to move the business forward. So I started to, even when I was working in-house, find ways to do things differently, right? So I revisited the way we do training. I developed a really good report with business teams, etc., right? And I thought, like social media is a great way to share obviously, insights and tips. And because I was already using social media to give career advice, I thought, you know what, like it's going to be a platform for my in-house legal learnings as well. So everything I was doing, especially, the ability to simplify legal information and design infographics and, and design things that are easy to understand and engaging and funny and accessible. I was posting all of those things on social media. So it started in when I first started to post legal content, it was more 2019, I think. And I saw the engagement of the legal community and the fact that people could resonate and not only resonate, but also get inspired, right? So initially, what was really more like a hobby and the passion for solving problems in the in-house legal profession became almost like a calling. So a few years down the line, I thought, you know what? I mean, people, engage with what I do, they resonate, they love it. And I started to receive messages from people saying, oh, yeah, I want to revisit the way my contract looks or the way my internal policies look, or, I want to design a legal training for my business people that is much more user-friendly and easy to understand. So what would be your tips? And I thought, wait a minute, if people have those needs, there might be a business opportunity right in front of you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just, how about you proposing it as a service and see how it goes, right? So that's really how LawButHow came about. It's the kind of the business form of my social media content. And then probably around the same time, ContractPodAi, and especially my line manager, Jerry Levine, who is the chief evangelist, he was following what I was doing on social media, and he reached out and said, hey, I really love what you do, and would you be interested in, having basically whatever you're doing on social media, you can do it for us, and on an employed basis. And I was like, wait, that's the perfect role for me. So yeah, and we've had a chat, and then the role came about, mentioned LawButHow, and he was like, yeah, do it. If anything, it's good. It's good for us as well, and yeah, so that's how it started.
So I'm just going to go a step back, right? Can you exactly tell us what LawButHow is for the benefit of our audience?
Yeah, sure. So LawButHow is I would say it's a legal design agency, to keep things simple. It's very much focused on legal information design. So the idea is to take documentation, or I will start with documentation. So take your contract, your policies, and just transform the experience of your end users with legal information. That's one service. Another service is more consultancy based, right? So, you're trying to brainstorm ideas, or you are a general counsel and you want to train your team on designing legal infographics, right? Mm-hmm. I can provide training. I can train lawyers, and I've trained a few this year already, to empower them again with the tools. So you have the services based offering, which is, I take your privacy policy, or I take your NDA and I transform it, I make it different, or I create something bespoke. So think about legal training materials, or there's also the training piece. So that's legal design agency and consulting services. That's really what LawButHow is about.
Great. And could you tell us what legal design is? Because I think a lot of people don't really know what exactly is legal design.
Yeah, so legal design is, I would say that it is a mindset, it is a discipline where you look at everything you do, for whether it's a service or it's a product or it's your information, namely your contract, your social media content. And you kind of take a step back and think, okay, how can I make everything that I do more user-centric? Who am I talking to? Okay, I'm targeting entrepreneurs. Is my content on social media really addressing, or is it really resonating with my audience? Is it really solving a problem for them? Is it really valuable? Is it really adding value? So I would describe it as a mindset where you take everything you do and you go backwards and you adopt a much more user-centric approach to it. I think historically, in at least in the legal industry, it wasn't really, everything we do wasn't really thought through from the perspective of the end user, right? If you look at contracts, they are full of legalese and they are long and they are really not the easiest thing to consume. And yet contracts are really what enable businesses to do business. But if you ask a CEO, or if you ask, somebody in the business to, if you ask them, oh, do you know what you are signing up for? I'm pretty sure that, a good part would be like, yeah, some of it, but I don't understand all of it, right? So that's really what legal design as a discipline solves as a problem. You think about your end users and you work backwards.
So I'm very interested to know what you exactly do as a legal design manager at ContractPodAi. And perhaps you can tell us what your day looks like.
Yeah, so it is, what's interesting about the role, it's obviously bespoke, right? So Jerry reached out and he was really interested, obviously, in what I do on social. And so everything is up for grasp with the role. But what I would say about what I do, or what I think I will be doing, because it's been a few months, but it's kind of a split between two things: internal needs and external needs. So on the internal side, because they have a legal product, they have a software that they sell to in-house lawyers, I'm bringing the end user's perspective to the table, right? So I'm helping with the development of new modules. I'm helping the sales team better understand the general counsel, the in-house lawyer personas. So I kind of share my insight as a end user to empower the teams internally to have a more user-centric approach to everything they do, because whatever they're developing is mostly addressed at in-house legal teams. So that's the internal needs. And that's really what I do as a legal design manager. I bring the user centricity as a support function to my business teams internally. And there's also an external element, which, would cover, things with marketing, the communication. Oh, what are the topics that in-house lawyers are interested in? And okay, they might be interested in digital transformation. Okay, great. And, okay, so where do they spend the most time? Social media. Okay, so how can we create something that is, engaging and that's going to resonate with the in-house legal audience on social media? So I'm supporting them with my in-house legal experience before, obviously, the outside world, So how can we grow the visibility of the brand in the in-house legal community, etc. And part of it is by promoting, user-friendly but also interesting content. And the last part would be also like selling the legal design services as well. So developing an offering where, yes, they are promoting digital transformation with their products, but what else can they do? Well, legal design and legal tech are really linked, because it's all about making things better, more user-friendly. Technology empowers lawyers to be more efficient. So similarly, legal design, empowers legal teams to be much more user-centric, to do things differently, to communicate in a way that is different. So it's kind of like an add-on to whatever they're already doing. So there's an element of obviously external legal design services as well to their clients.
That's a very interesting role, and like you said, it's bespoke, right? I'm trying to get a sense of somebody who's perhaps studied or wants to move to legal design. What kind of opportunities are really there in the market right now?
That's a great question, and it's a fairly new, obviously, niche in the legal industry, right? So I think there aren't many opportunities yet, but purely because it's so early. So what you do if you're really interested in legal design, first you obviously educate yourself, you grow your skills, you you try learning about, I mean, depending on what you're interested in, right? Are you more interested in user experience, in which case you can grow your skill in user experience? Are you more interested in the graphic, the visual piece, and so therefore you try to grow your skills in graphic design and visual information design? So that would be the first step, grow your skills in order to kind of set the ground to grow a legal design career. Number 2 would be network, so network with people in the field, join community. You have the legal creatives, for example, which is a great community about legal design. Speak to industry experts in the field. You have a lot of legal design experts now who post really good content, so you can really follow what they do, engage with their content, reach out to them, ask questions. So that would be my number 2 advice. Number 3 would be create content, so share your realizations, share your thoughts about the disciplines, and you never know who's watching. So that's really how you can kind of get there. And then, of course, there will be, at times, I'm sure, opportunities available. And therefore keep an eye on the markets, keep an eye on legal tech companies as well, because they might be interested in legal design to support whatever they are doing, a bit like ContractPodAi. So legal tech companies might start offering similar positions as well to complete their offering. So that would be my key advice.
So you spoke about, just educating yourself and engaging with the community. Do you have some resources that really helped you out when you first started engaging with legal design?
So resources, funny enough, I mean, there wasn't much when I started. So I kind of Googled my way, to learn things, right? So, and I think...
Did you have some blogs or books in mind that really helped you out after, of course, you did the Googling?
So I came across Tessa from the Legal Creatives. I think that's if there was like one community or like resources that I would recommend, would definitely be Tessa Manuelo from the Legal Creatives, because she's one of the pioneer, and she's probably the pioneer after obviously Margaret Hagan from the US, who really studied the discipline and formulated it as such. But Tessa really brings a practical perspective on the discipline. So I think Tessa Manuelo would be probably, the go-to person to learn about, the basics of legal design. And then depending on your angle, I would say to follow content creators on social media that are either from the graphic design space or from the user experience, the UX, UI space, because even though they are not in the legal industry, everything they do is really relevant for the things you want to learn about legal design. So if you're more interested in the visual aspects, there are plenty of graphic designers on social media, especially Instagram, where they share about their expertise, about colors, about fonts, about icons, about the platforms that you can use.
Right.
So I think that would probably be, Tessa from the Legal Creatives for more legal industry specific content, but also people from the design space for like more, design specific information.
Great. So, I mean, that's a very interesting takeaway that I have. Just looking at other people in other disciplines and trying to bring that in to the law. And I'm sure it gives you a very different perspective on about how you're actually looking at things to begin with. So I actually also wanted to ask you, like, you're obviously using legal design to make the product better. But for like a law student or a lawyer, let's say, how can they use legal design in their day-to-day lives? Like, what do you think can be the impact of legal design?
So I think one of the key things that you learn when practicing the discipline is that there is no such thing as a right or wrong solution. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. And it's very similar to law in a sense, like it always depends, so I think what they can do is experiment. Be curious enough to educate yourself on the skills that you might need to grow in the discipline. And whether you're a lawyer or law student doesn't matter, because they all start from zero, right? So educate yourself in the field and then apply your lessons to your everyday job. So if you are a law student, apply the discipline to your law lectures. Okay, this is long-winded, etc. How can I transform it? And law students would do that in a way because they have to obviously, prepare themselves for the exams and stuff. So they would try to simplify the class, the content from the class. But once they are aware of those disciplines, they can take it a step further, right? So try it in your day-to-day life. If you're a lawyer, same. You're a legal professional. Try to apply that to your contracts, to your communication, to your social media content. Try to apply that in various areas and see how it performs, and iterate, change, see what works, see what doesn't. And if you look at my content in 2019 versus now, it has changed because I've learned from it. I've learned about what works, what doesn't. I've learned about the importance, for example, of having colors so that people recognize my content, right?
Yeah.
So without even reading, they see the pink, they see a light pink, they see a black, they see white. They would know it's me, right? Whereas before, some of my infographics are blue or green, or because a color palette wasn't really that important for me. So that would be my advice.
And now that you've picked up the topic of legal content creation, right, I really want to get a sense of what are the kind of things you've learned along the way, and what really clicks with the kind of audience you're targeting, and what doesn't click as much.
So what I've learned from my journey as a legal content creator is, again, you have to be experimental. Because again, certain mediums or certain topics will work better than others, right? So, I write articles every now and then, but this is not my number one medium.
Okay.
Right? Because in my view, they are great, especially if you have a blog and, you want to obviously push your SEO and stuff. But my go-to place is social media. And when you're on social media, you want to be visible and impact straight away. And the article is not the right medium for that. So if you want to create impact, visual content or even like short videos would be the best medium in my opinion. So be prepared to be experimental. Have a look at what type of content resonate with you the most as a creator, because some people do podcasts, some people do blogging, some people like me are more about the visual piece, some people do videos. That's fine. Do whatever you feel comfortable with, but repurpose the content. So if you have a podcast, make a social media carousel and extract the key takeaways of a podcast episode, right? Or extract the audio and turn it into an article that will sit on your blog. So repurpose the content as much as possible, because otherwise you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You really have to be smart when it comes to content, because otherwise you spend a lot of time, and time is a limited resource, as we know. So that would be one of the things that I've learned along the way. Be prepared, I guess, on all the content and the topics. Be prepared to be authentic, vulnerable. Share your failures. Share your challenges. And I've recently, it was earlier this week, I've posted about my four mistakes I've made in my legal career, because I've made a lot more mistakes, but I wanted to emphasize some of the big ones. And I was like, yeah, people might resonate. It's a good thing to share, but I think on LinkedIn alone, I think I've reached the 300 likes. I didn't expect so many people resonated, sharing. I 20 people sharing my post on LinkedIn. So I've reached tens of thousands of views, and I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. So, but I think it really worked because people could resonate with the content. They've shared that they've made similar mistakes, so they could see themselves to the post. And also they'd been vulnerable, and share that, I wasn't the perfect lawyer. I've made many mistakes, and I will keep on making them as I develop. So be prepared to show your personal self, your vulnerability. And also be prepared as well, I guess, to really own your opinions, and accepting the fact that you won't please everybody. And it is true. I mean, sometimes I do have, people reaching out to me and not having really nice messages, and because I guess, they don't necessarily agree, or they don't agree with the medium, they don't agree with the message, but that's fine. That's the consequences of being a legal content creator. Certain people will love you, certain people won't resonate with you, and that's just perfectly normal, and don't take it personally.
So, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that, your preferred medium is visual, visual posts or short videos. Can you share some resources or some tools that you actually use on a day in, day out basis to create that kind of content?
So I use two tools. Canva is the number one tool that I recommend. It's so user-friendly, it's easy to use, it's very affordable as well. They have a free version that is quite good for a free version. And you can create social media posts, you can create infographics, you can it's very easy in the sense that you have drag and drop functionalities, you can add text, you have fonts, you have different colors, you have templates already. If you are lacking inspirations, you can type whatever you're looking for, and Canva will pull some templates for you. So Canva is, if you're getting started, go to Canva. If you want to create visual content. The number two tool I'm using, but it takes a bit more practice, is PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. And I know that we all have a very awful experience of PowerPoint, and we think about the ugly slides, but PowerPoint is what I create a lot of my infographics. And people are shocked when I say that it's PowerPoint, and they're like, really? Like, how did you even do that? But PowerPoint is a really good tool, but it takes a bit more time and practice. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they would be my two tools.
And what about videos? Like, what do you use for videos?
So videos, I mean, I'm using my phone, to be fair, like, I mean, and I mainly use videos for my TikTok videos. So it's mainly my phone, and I DIY everything else. I do have a tool called Mixed Captions. Mm-hmm. So that's really when, let's say I'm part of a podcast. So for example, you and I today talking, I might take samples of the video, upload it. And I'm going to do a screen recording on my phone, take a sample of it, go to Mixed Captions and add the subtitles, because people are more likely to read the content if the subtitles are on. So I use Mixed Caption for videos, and that's it.
All right, great. So you're in the space, right, of legal design. I just want to know how you can sort of convince more and more people to invest time and actually get people to, really practice this discipline. Like, how do you convince companies or law firms or, just the entire legal industry to sort of pick this up more?
Okay, so that's a great question, and the answer will be different if we are talking to individuals or talking to organizations. So let's start with the individuals. I think the reason why I would encourage individuals, so lawyers, even like law students, paralegals, people in the legal industry in general, to really embrace it, and not only legal design, it's any new skills, any skills that can really enhance the practice of law, is because it's not enough to be a good technical legal professional. yes, you have your discipline, but you won't go far with your discipline alone, right? You can really, when you merge your discipline with technology, so let's say that, if you are able to automate some of your work, you will be more efficient. If you adopt a more user-centric approach to everything you do, you might grow a bigger client base. If you embrace social media content, you will grow your visibility. If you learn about project management, you will be more organized and therefore be more efficient again with your time and energy, and make more space for your personal life as well. So everything that you can develop will benefit you in one way or another in the practice of your discipline, right? And I think it's probably a piece of advice that goes to any industry and any profession, really, is have an open mind. And you might be an expert in the field, but that doesn't mean that you can't, or you don't have to learn about other disciplines that really may contribute to the way you do things. So embrace technology, embrace design, embrace, the creativity in your profession. There's so many great things that you can achieve as a professional, whether you want to be promoted where you're working, whether you want to build your own business, whether you want to create a bespoke opportunity somewhere. Everything that you do to really build upon your skills will benefit you long term. But yes, it is an investment. And for organizations, I think obviously, yeah, when they, and that's the reason why legal tech is growing, right? Is because legal service providers are seeing the benefits of technology to be more efficient, to drive, to offer more cost-effective legal services, etc. So it's good for business. It's good for the well-being of your people as well, because they will spend less time focused on admin and low-value tasks and more time with high-value work. So they will be more fulfilled and happier. If you empower your team again to develop in all disciplines, you are growing their career. You are empowering them with new tools that they can use on their day-to-day jobs, so they become more fulfilled and they feel valued as well, because you are taking the time to educate them and grow their skills. So that would be my advice for organizations.
Okay, so we've spoken so much. I actually wanted to understand, do you think that law school should sort of also start talking about legal design in one way, shape or form, or?
100%. Law school, that's the issue. There is such a big gap, even before all of those new things, project management and design, and even legal tech, like even before all those new disciplines, there was a big gap between what law school teaches versus, the reality of the legal profession, right? You're bombarded with law lecture, and you're being asked to produce an essay with 3,000 words, right? And then you start working as an in-house lawyer, and your sales team is asking for an answer in 2 or 3 sentences, right? Like, it's such there's such a big gap, right, between the two. So even before all of those new things started to grow, there was already a gap. And if the legal education doesn't embrace, not only offering more, practical teaching, but also offering the opportunity for students to learn about new disciplines, the gap is going to go wider and wider. And really you really start working with such a gap that you have to obviously somehow pick up on and address. So I think law school should definitely embrace all of those things. And in all fairness to them, like I've been asked recently to teach in a law school in France. So things are
definitely moving. Yeah, great. I just have one last question, which is, you chose to do entrepreneurship, and now you're a legalpreneur. Can you give us 3 things that somebody who's just starting out or thinking about starting out should know?
Yeah, it's hard, but I guess everyone can understand that. I'm very fortunate that I can run LawButHow along with my role at ContractPodAi, and whatever I do for LawButHow is also valuable for ContractPod and vice versa. So I think I'm in a very unique and fortunate position in that sense. But if you're starting entrepreneurship, I think it's important to not overthink, because sometimes you want to reach perfection, you want to arrive to a stage where your services are ready to be sold. You kind of overthink your strategy, and there's no such thing as perfection in business. I've already seen, in my first project, I've lost money, right? I've priced something that wasn't the right price. It was really good for the client because they got a really, really good deal, but then I really didn't make money out of it. But had I sat there and, had I guess, put too much time and effort trying to figure out the appropriate pricing, maybe I would have missed out on the opportunity, right? The opportunity came up, the client needed the material, the legal training ready in 2 weeks. I had no choice. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just put my finger in the air. Okay, yeah, let's go for X amount, right? And then I started to do it, and I was like, oh, that's hard. Like, my goodness, I should have charged 2 or 3 times more at least. But I've learned from it. So just be bold, go for it. Don't be scared of making mistakes. It's just normal. You're just learning, and be prepared to adjust as well as you grow. There will be some services that won't be profitable and that you might have to just park away. There might be other things that you might want to double down on because clearly it's working. Work smart as well. So there might be, if you're doing one-to-one consultations and you see that there's a pattern, people are always asking the same questions. Well, how about you transforming your teachings in an online course and sell it, as opposed to spend 10 hours a week repeating the same things, or create an ebook that people can buy or whatever. So yeah, try to obviously be more efficient because time is a limited resource. Accept that things won't always work out. You will have a lot of people reaching out, asking for your services, and they look interested, and they are like, oh, we're ready for you to start next week. And then you go back with the proposal, and you don't hear back. That's just that's just normal. Don't take things personally, just move on. Don't spend too much time negotiating and for those early stages prospects. Like, if people aren't ready to buy, you just move on. So limit your time to half an hour consultations or whatever. Try to really be smart with your time, and enjoy the process, because it really, really, really takes time. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you will struggle to do that long term. So that would be my takeaway.
Great. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, Sarah. Thank you so much once again for agreeing to do this. Just do you have any parting thoughts, or do you want to share something before we go?
Take care of yourself. I think that's something I've learned the hard way, is setting boundaries for myself and being buried with work and ambition that you just lose track of yourself as an individual. It's important to take the time that you deserve to look after you. So yeah, that would be, I guess, the closing thought. And if anybody wants to reach out, I'm everywhere on social media.
No, actually, we'll just put all handles and wherever Sarah's at, and all the other relevant links, including the resources that we've spoken about, in the description to this video, so everybody can, it's just easy to find things.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing, Shreya. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.